much. So that's a good point to say, how did you keep play a part of your life when you were kind of the solo employee of this new small business? You were being the strategic operator, making all these decisions, checking out the marketplace, learning from failures, working on your loans to your father. And yet you got out and played some golf?
Yeah.
Okay.
And ended up doing some leadership in the Women's Golf Association.
Okay, so you put to practice, and you had been a leader, I'm sure, in various ways when I was even younger, but these were official sort of ways.
Right.
Okay, so you sold the store. You and Dad decided to move to Florida. We have a Michigan and Florida glasses in front of us, even celebrating two places we love. We're both living now in Florida. But then another idea came. There were very many in my dad's mind. And Nancy's Intimate Apparel had been in Mom's mind. But then you moved here, and all of a sudden there was this thing about ice cream stores. How did you and Dad decide? How did you determine how to divide up the responsibilities? Because now suddenly two of you are more involved in a business.
Well, that came about in 1981, 82, maybe. We were in Petoskey from 72 to 80. And then about 81, at a golf tournament, Dennis learned about the waffle cone. It was brand new, being replacing the little sugar cone. And he learned about that could be marketed in volume with a machine. So he got all interested in doing that, and he started marketing it in the state of Florida. And then all of us being ice cream lovers, but particularly him, he said we should have ice cream to display this cone in, so that we know what it's like to have an ice cream store.
Okay.
So we opened out in Siesta Key in Sarasota in 82, an ice cream store. And we used a commercial brand ice cream. And then it was like, I think in, how old is Andy?
I put me on the spot.
Well, her oldest child was just born, and Denny got the idea of making ice cream.
Sometime 83 then, or 84, 83.
Making homemade ice cream. So we started making homemade ice cream.
So I hear a lot of experimentation going on. I hear again this sense of, in this instance, it was Dad's sort of aha moment, like a waffle cone, cool, like I can become the distributor for Florida. Nobody in Florida has even had a waffle cone. And then it was like, well, we should be putting our own ice cream in the waffle cone. So once again, he was seeing some needs and said, we can fill them like you did with Intimate Apparel. But how did you, what role did you fill then? Because this was initially Dad's dream, right?
Right, because he was basically more the sales person, outside sales.
Okay.
I was inside sales at the store, but anyway, we talked about it, and of course, then if you have a store that involves other people,
this is where your managerial, your strategic operator came into play again.
It involves books, keeping books, and that kind of stuff. And I had that experience in doing that, even though I had few employees. I at least knew how to interact with somebody, employee-wise. So then we, of course, in ice cream stores, anybody that you probably have visited, the main employee are teenagers.
A little different than the bras and panties store.
Yeah, only because it's who you can afford to work for you.
Okay.
Because cones ice cream now has increased in value, but at the time, for an ice cream cone of what you're paying for it, you have to be careful of what your profit and loss with them.
So you were doing all this work in terms of, you were looking at the profit and loss margins. You were looking at the salary or the hourly rate you could offer with the ingredients, because Dad was doing things homemade, right? He was trying homemade recipes.
He was selling.
Yeah, selling then.
And selling, we sold waffle mix to, first of all, to Busch Gardens and to SeaWorld, and we started to market it to big places.
Okay.
And or he started to do that. So we, of course, then he had the idea of like, well, this store is really successful out in Siesta Key. Where else can we go and do? Because we're in a resort.
Another resort, moved from Michigan resort town to Florida resort town.
And being Siesta Key, it definitely was resort. St. Armand's is resort. And so then we thought about opening up a store out in St. Armand's and worked with that, bringing that forth. But again, then because I not only had employees for one store, then I was needing to have a manager and employee for a second store. Well, we went on to 5 stores, and that's a lot of teenagers.
And a store in Michigan,
for
Mount Pleasant for a while.
Short time.
So, Mom, what? I mean, many of us have team members or we have employees. What was, you talked about, older persons that you employed in the intimate apparel store. You talked about a lot of a teenage staff in the ice cream store. What was effective as a manager? What were your best strategies when working with employees?
Well, there's a difference. Honesty is a big thing.
Okay.
And showing a caring kind of spirit, whether you're 40 or 16, that you care.
Very true. Very
true.
true.
Care about your employees. They're more than just a number. And so the part with the teenagers that I found challenging, by this time you were no longer a teenager and Jeff was no longer a teenager, at least from,
right,
high school. But so I had dealt with some teenagers through my daughter and son, but I thought they were just friend kind of thing. So dealing with the teenager in the business, it's most of the time it's a first experience in working.
It's their first job, so you're one of the first trainers. Okay.
And my mind goes back into my first job, would have been at 14 when I worked in a drugstore at the soda counter.
Oh, that's right.
I worked doing ice cream at a soda counter in what's when little pharmacies and could have that kind of stuff together. And so I had a little bit of it being on a young age myself and experiencing something. And now I'm on the older age and I have teenagers working for me. So I had to teach them, most of them, how to work. And this was back in the 80s. I have no idea what it's like today. But most of them did not know how to push a broom. Did not know what a dishcloth or a brush meant, in the dishwater. Can I tell a funny story about
Tell a funny story. So cleanliness was always important to you in any business you ran.
Yeah. But in an ice cream store, there's ice cream dripping in at the dairy product, and it's sticky, and it can even more so attract bugs and so forth. But anyway, so my little side motto was cleanliness is next to godliness.
Okay.
And that wasn't always understood. But I had one girl that came to me, and basically most of our things were throwaway, but there was some things. Like we had plastic tubs that we had to wash and then be sanitized, and the homemade ice cream would get used again after that went through a process. And this one young girl at 15 or 16, whatever it was at that time, um, said, "I don't do dishes." And I said, "Well, we don't have dishes. We just have some tubs. I don't put my hands in soapy water."
Okay.
And I said, "Well, then I guess it was nice knowing you. And if you're not willing to do that, then we don't have a job for you."
Okay. So part of the job description, you were being forthright. This
Yeah.
teenager somehow thought dishes are not part of my repertoire in life. I hope she's doing dishes today, wherever she might be. But there you were again, being the leader, being a teacher, and also having some guardrails that this
Right.
is necessary. This is part of what you're being paid for, and but you were teaching them how to work. I bet they redid the floor a few times until they got it right with you.
Well, probably.
Probably, maybe. So, oh, you were going to say something, Mom?
No, it's a learning curve for anybody when they start working in
That's true.
any kind of a job. And I felt it was important for both of the businesses that when somebody worked for me, they knew my guidelines.
They knew your
And I
guidelines.
had a manual.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
So
I
you
had
knew
a
you should have a
manual
manual,
how to
something.
do this and how to do that and
Ah,
what's expected. So it was all printed out for them to read.
right.
And I had developed a training book. Forgot about that. I developed a training book, and before any of them worked for me, they had to read the book, and then we quizzed.
Oh, you quizzed them even, Mom. I think you're an educator to boot. But what you are showing here is the importance of communication.
Yeah.
You talked before about relationships in the community and having to network and meet people in order to sell your intimate apparel products up north. Now you're in a bigger city. You had a product you were proud of. So this whole sense of customer service and your employees now were more. And so you really had to communicate with your employees how to act with customers, how to take care of the store. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody was left unguarded. They basically, there was just one person working, so we basically, even back then,
Yeah.
we worked in twos, so that there was always somebody else around.
And some help and also some accountability.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Do you want to say anything for, we talked about 6 years for the intimate apparel store, seems so much longer. For all your different ice cream stores, I know they had different openings and closings, but why did you and Dad determine to get out then of the ice cream business, and what year was that?
It was the end of 1990,
Nine
December of 1990.
1990, okay.
And probably in 89, we started to realize the strain that was showing up with him and with me, with all the responsibilities. And so we wanted to franchise, but there was no money to franchise. We learned that took a lot of money. And he tried to find somebody to back up to support, be an investor in, and that was not available then. And so one by one, we started to sell the stores.
Okay.
And the stores that maybe weren't as productive got sold first.
Right, right. You know what I'm thinking, Mom? You moved to Northern Michigan because you enjoyed plains so much and you enjoyed nature. And you talked about a 2-week vacation that, your one employee covered for you from up north in the intimate apparel store. Now you're in another vacation spot. But when are ice cream stores the busiest in a vacation spot?
During the high season.
During vacation, right? And so I think all of a sudden it was this different market that did not seem to allow you to have all those hours to play, nor did you have